Beloved, I want you to pause for just a moment and let the weight of these words sink deep into your spirit. This is not just another message. This is a declaration from the throne of heaven directly to you. Today, God is speaking to those who have been waiting, who have been praying, who have been believing, and yet the provision has not seemed to arrive. But hear me now, the moment has come for breakthrough. There is a divine shift happening, and it is moving in your favor. I am not speaking hypothetically. I am speaking of a reality that you can claim with your very words, with your faith, and with your obedience. The prayer you are about to declare is not an ordinary prayer. This is a prayer that moves the hand of God. This is a prayer that aligns your spirit with the miraculous power of heaven. Say it boldly. Say it with authority. Say it as if you already see the result, because miracles are not delayed when faith is present. You do not have to wait for the circumstances to change. You do not have to wait for someone else to give you permission. God's provision is not dependent on your job, your bank account, or the approval of men. It is dependent on His promise and your willingness to receive it. And today, we are going to unlock that flow. I want you to understand something profound. God does not just hear your prayers. He moves instantly when the conditions of faith are met. That is why this message is critical. This is your moment to stop worrying, stop strategizing, stop looking at what seems impossible. Instead, focus on what is possible when you partner with God through the authority of prayer. Every word you speak, every declaration you make carries weight. And when you speak the words, God, I need money now, it is more than a simple request. It is a spiritual transaction. It is the activation of supernatural favor. You are not asking from lack. You are asking from a position of alignment with the God who owns all wealth, all resources, and all opportunities. Now, let us speak to the urgency of your situation. I know some of you are sitting here feeling desperate. You have bills piling up, responsibilities weighing you down, and the future seems uncertain. But I am here to tell you that desperation is not a hindrance to God's power. It is an invitation. The very moment you acknowledge your need and lift it to heaven, you are opening the door for miraculous provision. There is no delay too long, no obstacle too great, and no situation too complex for God to intervene. But you must act. You must declare. You must align your spirit with His will. And that is exactly what this sermon will do for you today. The power of this prayer is instantaneous because it is rooted in faith. Faith does not wait. Faith does not bargain. Faith does not negotiate with the enemy. Faith speaks the word and sees the reality. When you say, God, I need money now, you are not asking God to consider it. You are commanding your spirit to believe, your heart to receive, and your life to be open to the miracle that is already on its way. This is the faith that moves mountains, that splits seas, that opens doors that no man can shut. And I want you to understand something. Every time you hesitate, every time you doubt, you delay the release of what belongs to you. But the moment you speak with authority, the heavens respond. And this is why it is essential to understand that prayer is not just about words. It is about alignment. It is about positioning yourself to receive the blessings that God has already prepared. This prayer is your key, your access point, and your activation code to divine wealth. You are not merely asking for money. You are positioning yourself to step into your miracle. You are not just expecting a check or a bank deposit. You are expecting supernatural intervention. You are expecting God to multiply, to open hidden avenues, to send people, opportunities, and resources into your life that you could never orchestrate on your own. This is a moment of divine acceleration, and your declaration is the engine that powers it. Now, I want to make it clear that this is not a prayer of selfish desire. This is a prayer of necessity, a prayer of alignment, a prayer that acknowledges God as the source of all provision. When you say, God, I need money now, you are confessing that you recognize His authority, His power, and His willingness to supply every need according to His riches in glory. You are not bargaining. You are submitting. You are not demanding. You are activating faith. And in doing so, you are tapping into the supernatural economy of heaven, where there is no shortage, no delay, and no limit. So, before we move into the specifics, I want you to quiet your mind, lift your heart, and open your mouth in expectancy. What you are about to declare is not empty words. It is a prophetic statement that calls your miracle into existence. It is a prayer that triggers immediate action from God's Spirit. It is a declaration that shifts your reality and positions you to receive what has been prepared for you since the foundation of the world. And with that, let us begin to explore the key points that will transform your approach to provision, your understanding of faith, and your ability to declare and receive the miraculous. These are 8 powerful truths, and the first one is faith is not passive. Faith does not wait for circumstances to improve. Faith does not sit quietly hoping for a blessing. Faith is the engine that moves the invisible forces of heaven. It is the force that turns a simple prayer into a divine intervention. When you say, "God, I need money now," you are not just expressing a wish, you are speaking your miracle into existence. You are declaring with authority that your breakthrough is already on the way. Faith is the declaration that what you see in your natural world is not the final word. Faith is the refusal to let current limitations define your future. Faith says, "I am not bound by what I see. I am aligned with what God says." Consider Abraham, who believed God's promise for a child even when Sarah laughed. Consider the widow who, with only a small jar of oil, experienced an endless supply because her faith acted before the miracle manifested. Consider David, who faced Goliath not because of his strength, but because he spoke with the confidence of God's power. This is the principle that transforms ordinary lives into testimonies. It is not your bank account, your network, or your talent that releases your miracle. It is your faith acting boldly, speaking loudly, and believing consistently. Faith declares before it sees. It is the voice that moves mountains, the action that triggers heaven, and the force that makes impossibilities bow to God's promise. When you speak, "God, I need money now," speak it with authority. Speak it as if the check is already in your hand, as if the door is already open, as if the blessing has already arrived. Your words are not idle, they are prophetic. They are the announcement of what heaven is ready to deliver. Faith is active. Faith is loud. Faith is immediate. And as we explore this principle, you will see that declaring your miracle is not just an act of hope, it is an act of power, authority, and alignment with the God who is always faithful. Beloved, understand these miracles are not random. They do not just drop into your lap without preparation or alignment. The favor of God is a supernatural force, and like any force, it responds to conditions. You cannot expect divine acceleration if your spirit is scattered, your mind is doubting, and your actions are misaligned with your faith. Favor is not given to chaos. Favor is given to alignment. That is why it is critical to position yourself intentionally, spiritually, mentally, and practically, so that when God moves, nothing in your life resists the breakthrough that is coming. Positioning yourself for supernatural favor begins in the spirit. Your spirit is the engine that connects you to the invisible realm. If your spirit is out of sync with God's presence, your prayers become mechanical, your declarations lose power, and your breakthrough can be delayed. Spiritually, you must cultivate intimacy with God, a personal, daily connection where you are listening as much as you are speaking. This is not about ritual, this is about relationship. When your spirit is aligned with heaven, you operate in resonance with divine timing, divine strategy, and divine resources. Favor flows to those who are spiritually positioned to receive it because God's blessing cannot rest where His presence is absent. Next, alignment requires your mind to be fully engaged in faith, not fear. Many believers sabotage their own provision because they entertain doubt, worry, and limitation. Your mind is a battlefield where either hope or despair can dominate. If you are constantly thinking about lack, scarcity, or what cannot be done. You are creating resistance to God's favor. Positioning your mind means renewing it daily with the promises of God. Speak over yourself, meditate on His Word, and visualize your miracle as though it is already happening. When your thoughts are aligned with divine possibility, your words become declarations of faith, and your actions follow in sync with the supernatural momentum God is releasing. Alignment also demands action. Favor does not operate in isolation. It works in concert with obedience. God can prepare your miracle, but you must step into it. Opportunities will arise, doors will open, and people will come across your path. But if you are inactive, favor may pass you by. Positioning yourself for favor means being ready to move when God signals. It means cultivating wisdom to recognize divine appointments. It means taking steps that make your faith tangible. Your actions do not generate the miracle, but they activate the channels through which God delivers it. Every aligned action becomes a magnet for supernatural acceleration. Now, understand the principle of readiness. Favor often appears suddenly and unexpectedly, but those who are prepared can receive it fully. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to always be in the right place at the right time? This is not luck. This is divine favor meeting preparation. If you are disorganized spiritually, mentally, or practically, you will be present when favor moves, but you will not be able to receive it. God's provision requires a vessel, and that vessel must be positioned to hold what heaven is sending. It is your responsibility to prepare yourself spiritually through prayer and intimacy, mentally through belief and meditation on God's promises, and practically through disciplined action and readiness. Favor also flows to those whose hearts are pure, whose motives are aligned with God's purpose. If your heart is divided by selfish ambition, jealousy, or resentment, the flow of divine favor can be hindered. Positioning yourself for supernatural favor involves cultivating humility, gratitude, and integrity. When your intentions are pure, God's blessings are multiplied, and your environment becomes fertile for acceleration. Favor does not merely meet you, it amplifies your capacity to receive and steward it well. This is why you must examine your heart, release any bitterness, and align your desires with God's will. Let us speak specifically about financial provision. Positioning yourself for supernatural favor in this area requires both spiritual and practical preparation. Spiritually, maintain a consistent life of prayer, gratitude, and generosity because God honors the cheerful and obedient heart. Mentally, declare your breakthrough daily, believing that your miracle is already on its way. Practically, manage what you already have wisely so that when new resources arrive, you are ready to receive and multiply them. Favor is most potent when it encounters a prepared vessel because God does not waste His provision on unprepared hands. Finally, positioning yourself is not passive. It is active, consistent, and deliberate. You must guard your spirit, renew your mind daily, align your actions, cultivate a pure heart, and maintain readiness in every area of your life. When these align, you become a magnet for supernatural favor. Suddenly, doors will open that were previously closed. Connections will appear that were hidden, and resources will flow in ways that defy human logic. The alignment of spirit, mind, and action creates an environment where miracles are not just possible, they are inevitable. So, beloved, as you prepare to declare the prayer, God, I need money now, remember that favor is ready to meet you. But your miracle requires you to be positioned. Align your spirit with heaven, renew your mind with promises, and act in obedience and readiness. When these three come together, you will discover that supernatural favor is not a concept, it is a tangible force that shifts your life instantly. Beloved, before your miracle can manifest, there is a critical step you must take. You must break every limiting belief that stands between you and your blessing. These are not ordinary thoughts. They are invisible chains, mental strongholds, and spiritual blockades that have been quietly dictating what you believe is possible in your life. They are the whispered lies that tell you that you are not enough, that resources are scarce, that wealth is for others but not for you. And if these lies are not dismantled, they will continue to sabotage your prayers, your declarations, and your faith. The first step to receiving your miracle is identifying and demolishing the mental barriers that have held you captive. Limiting beliefs are often invisible because they have been with you for a long time. They may have been planted by negative experiences, repeated disappointments, or the voices of those who could not see your potential. They may even have been reinforced by your own doubts and fears. But just because a belief is familiar does not mean it is true. God's word reminds us that you are more than a conqueror. That abundance belongs to the faithful, and that the blessings of heaven are not limited by what you see or what society dictates. These promises are spiritual truths that override every limiting thought. The question is, are you willing to believe them enough to act? Breaking limiting beliefs begins with awareness. You must become conscious of the thoughts that are shaping your reality. Ask yourself, what do I believe about money? Do I believe that God can provide instantly, or do I doubt His timing? Do I believe I am worthy of wealth, or do I secretly feel undeserving? Do I allow past failures to dictate my future possibilities? Awareness is the spark that illuminates the chains. You cannot remove what you cannot see. And when you clearly identify these beliefs, you are ready to confront them with truth, declaration, and faith. Once you have identified your limiting beliefs, the next step is confrontation. Speak truth over every lie. Declare that lack does not define you. Proclaim that poverty is not your portion. Announce that divine favor, provision, and wealth are yours according to God's promises. You must actively reject the voice of fear and disbelief. Say to every limiting thought, "You have no authority over my life. I am a child of the Most High, and my miracle is already on its way." This is not just motivational language, it is spiritual warfare. Every lie that has tried to hold you back must be confronted with the authority of God's word and the boldness of your declaration. Faith and repetition are key. Breaking limiting beliefs is not a one-time event. It is a process that requires consistent action. Every day, remind yourself of God's promises. Speak abundance over yourself, your family, and your future. Visualize the miracle as if it is already happening. Fill your mind with what is true, honorable, and praiseworthy. The more you meditate on divine possibility, the weaker the grip of limiting beliefs becomes. What you feed grows, so feed faith, hope, and expectation, and starve fear, doubt, and limitation. Another essential step is surrounding yourself with the right environment. Your beliefs are influenced by what you see, hear, and experience. Remove negativity, distance yourself from doubters, and immerse yourself in the presence of those who believe in possibility, those who affirm faith, and those who act in alignment with God's promises. Favor gravitates toward faith-filled spaces, and limiting beliefs lose their power in an environment of hope, expectancy, and divine alignment. Remember, beloved, that breaking limiting beliefs is also an act of obedience. God's word tells us to take every thought captive, to align our minds with truth, and to walk in the confidence of His provision. When you submit your thoughts to His authority, every obstacle in your mind becomes powerless. The very beliefs that have held you back can be transformed into faith engines that propel you toward supernatural provision. Your mind becomes fertile ground for miracles rather than barren soil for doubt. Consider the practical implications. If you continue to believe that money will never come, you will act in ways that prevent it from arriving. Opportunities will pass by unnoticed, offers will be ignored, and prayers will be weakened by doubt. But when limiting beliefs are removed, your thoughts, words, and actions are aligned with divine possibility. You start to see doors where there were walls, resources where there was lack, and favor where there was resistance. Breaking these mental barriers is not optional, it is essential. And finally, know this: God delights in your freedom. He delights in your victory over thoughts that have chained you for years. He delights in your courage to step into a new reality where miracles are possible, where abundance flows, and where your faith activates instant provision. As you break every limiting belief, you are creating space for the miraculous. You are declaring that your past does not define your future, that scarcity will not dictate your destiny, and that the favor of God is your inheritance. Beloved, the time for limitation is over. The time for miracles is now. Your declaration, God, I need money now, requires that your mind, your heart, and your spirit are free from every lie that says you cannot receive. Break every limiting belief, remove every barrier, and open yourself fully to the supernatural provision that God is ready to release. Beloved, I want you to understand this truth deeply. Your words are not just sounds that pass through the air. They are declarations of power, instruments of authority, and keys that unlock the supernatural. God has ordained that words carry creative force. Just as He spoke the universe into existence, He has given you the ability to speak and release what aligns with His promises in your life. Every word you declare about your finances, your provision, and your blessings has the power to shape your reality. If you want to see your miracle, you must speak abundance daily. You must declare what you want to see before it appears, because faith-filled words activate the channels of heaven. Many believers underestimate the power of their speech. They pray for money, for miracles, for provision, and then speak words of doubt, worry, and limitation. They confess lack instead of abundance. But hear me clearly, your words are a spiritual broadcast. They tell the universe, and more importantly, they tell your own spirit what you believe to be true. If you want your finances to be transformed, if you want to experience supernatural provision, you cannot speak scarcity. You cannot mutter complaints about bills, debts, or obstacles. Instead, you must declare victory, prosperity, and breakthrough. Your mouth must be in alignment with the promises of God. Speaking abundance daily is more than repeating affirmations. It is a lifestyle of declaration and expectancy. It is not empty repetition. It is the intentional release of faith through your speech. Every morning, declare that God is your source. Every conversation, every thought, every internal dialogue must be saturated with the language of provision and miracle. Say aloud, I am blessed. I am prosperous. I receive supernatural provision now. Speak these words with authority. Speak them as if your miracle is already in motion. Speak them boldly and consistently, because repetition is the rhythm through which faith strengthens and miracles manifest. Understand this. Your words are prophetic. They announce to the spiritual realm what you intend to receive. When you consistently speak abundance, you are positioning yourself to encounter divine opportunities, divine connections, and divine resources. Your speech aligns your spirit with God's economy. Favor begins to respond. Doors that were once closed start to open. People who were previously unavailable begin to cross your path. Resources that seemed unreachable now flow into your hands. Speaking abundance is not wishful thinking. It is a spiritual practice that activates the supernatural economy of heaven in your life. But beloved, it is not enough to speak only in private moments of prayer. Speak abundance in every area of your life. Speak it over your home, your family, your finances, your work, and your future. Speak it when you wake, when you walk, when you interact with others, and even when circumstances try to contradict your declaration. When you consistently speak abundance, your words create a spiritual momentum that nothing can stop. Your speech becomes a conveyor of blessing, a magnet for miracles, and a shield against lack. Let me also remind you that your words shape your belief. What you say repeatedly, you begin to believe. If you constantly complain, worry, or confess lack, your spirit and mind will start to accept limitation as reality. But if you speak abundance, if you proclaim daily that God's provision is flowing toward you, your spirit begins to align with that truth, your faith strengthens, and your expectancy increases. Speaking abundance is not just about attracting wealth. It is about renewing your mind, reinforcing your faith, and positioning yourself to receive without hesitation or doubt. Now, consider the practical applications. Speak about opportunities, not obstacles. Speak about favor, not frustration. Speak about increase, not insufficiency. Make it a habit to declare your miracle even before you see it. Visualize it, speak it, and carry it in your heart with confidence. For example, instead of saying, "I don't know how I will pay this bill," declare, "God is supplying all my needs now. I receive provision that exceeds my expectations." Shift your language from lack to abundance, from fear to faith, and from delay to immediacy. And do not underestimate the multiplier effect of your words. When you speak abundance, you influence not only your life, but the atmosphere around you. Your declarations affect your family, your team, your colleagues, and even strangers. Words are contagious, and when you consistently speak faith-filled abundance, you create an environment where miracles are recognized, celebrated, and multiplied. Finally, beloved, understand this spiritual principle. Words are the activation mechanism of faith. Faith without declaration is like a seed buried in the ground without sunlight or water. It will not grow. But when faith is coupled with words, it becomes alive, visible, and active. Speaking abundance daily is the bridge between what is promised and what is experienced. It is the engine that propels your miracle from the invisible realm into your tangible reality. So, as you prepare to declare the prayer, "God, I need money now," make it a practice to speak abundance daily. Fill your mouth with words of faith, prosperity, and expectancy. Let your speech reflect what your spirit believes. Speak boldly, speak consistently, speak with authority, and watch as the supernatural begins to manifest. Doors open, resources flow, and your miracle moves from heaven into your hands. Beloved, I want you to hear this clearly. God does not need months, years, or endless delay to move on your behalf. When you align your faith with His promises, the supernatural responds immediately. The instant you act in obedience, declare your miracle, and believe with unwavering confidence, the spiritual laws of heaven begin to release provision, favor, and acceleration into your life. Expecting immediate results is not presumptuous. It is an essential posture of faith. If you are going to see miracles manifest, you must believe that God's timing is perfect, and His response can be instantaneous. Many people pray they believe, and yet they are caught in delay because their expectations are limited by natural reasoning. They say, "I have to wait, I have to plan, I have to earn it first." But faith operates outside of natural limitations. Faith is the declaration that the impossible is possible, that the unseen can become seen, and that the miracle can occur today, this hour, even this very minute. When you approach God with confident expectancy, you are not simply hoping. You are activating His promise and positioning yourself for immediate divine intervention. Expecting immediate results requires a mindset shift. You must let go of the belief that miracles take time. You must reject the lie that your circumstances dictate your outcome. The truth is that the moment you release a prayer in faith, aligned with God's word, heaven is already in motion on your behalf. There is no lag in the spiritual realm. The delay is often in our perception, in our patience, or in our failure to recognize what God has already done. But when you anticipate immediate results, your eyes become open to the sudden manifestations, the unexpected resources, and the divine solutions that appear without warning. Beloved, expect miracles to appear in ways that defy human logic. When God responds instantly, it often comes from angles you never considered. Money may arrive from a source you never imagined. Opportunities may appear that you thought were impossible. People may step into your life. Doors may open, and solutions may manifest in ways that leave you in awe. Expecting immediate results trains your spirit to recognize and receive the miraculous. It shifts you from waiting passively to receiving actively. Every expectation of the miraculous creates a magnetic field that draws heaven's resources to your life. Immediate results also require bold, unwavering faith. Faith that hesitates, doubts, or wavers slows the release of miracles. But faith that believes, expects, and declares, God, I receive my provision now, triggers instant response. You must speak your miracle into existence without delay, move in alignment with opportunity without hesitation, and act with confidence that the unseen is already in motion. Remember, God honors decisive faith. He moves on behalf of those who believe that His word is true and who do not delay in claiming what is already theirs. Consider the example of biblical miracles. The widow's oil multiplied instantly the moment she obeyed the prophet's instruction. The lepers were cleansed immediately when they acted in faith. Peter walked on water the instant he took his eyes off fear and fixed them on Jesus. These are not isolated stories. They are patterns, principles, and proofs that God responds immediately when faith is present and aligned with His word. You are not excluded from this divine principle. The same God who moved instantly for them can move instantly for you today. Expecting immediate results also means removing doubt and delay from your heart. Doubt is the enemy's tool to slow down your breakthrough. Delay is the illusion that your miracle must be postponed. You must reject both with authority. Declare that your miracle is here, even if you do not yet see it fully manifested. Expect provision, expect acceleration, expect doors to open, and expect favor to arrive faster than human reasoning can calculate. Faith with expectation transforms waiting into receiving, hesitation into action, and prayer into manifestation. Practical expectancy is also essential. Position yourself to receive. Open your heart, your mind, and your environment to the miracle. Check for opportunities God sends, answer when doors knock, and act boldly when divine appointments arrive. Immediate results often require your active participation. God releases the miracle, but you must step into it with readiness, gratitude, and obedience. When you do, you will find that miracles rarely announce themselves. They appear suddenly, unexpectedly, and abundantly. Beloved, the posture of expectancy is one of confidence, boldness, and unwavering faith. Speak with authority, believe without hesitation, and anticipate without doubt. Your miracle is not bound by time, it is limited only by your faith. The moment you declare, God, I need money now, expect to see it manifest. Heaven responds instantly when faith is present. Delay belongs to the natural, but the supernatural operates beyond time, beyond limitation, and beyond human understanding. So as you move forward in this declaration, remember, God is ready to release your provision now. Your miracle does not need months to manifest. Your blessing does not need delay. Expect immediate results. Believe with your whole heart, and watch the supernatural respond instantly to the faith you release in obedience and expectancy. Beloved, understand this fundamental truth. God releases miracles, provision, and favor in response to faith, but those blessings require action. Favor often arrives in the form of opportunities, doors that open, people who appear, resources that are suddenly available. But if you hesitate, if you procrastinate, or if you doubt, those divine openings can close before you step through. Acting promptly is not optional, it is essential. God moves swiftly, and He often expects us to move with equal urgency when heaven signals that our breakthrough has arrived. Many believers wait too long. They pray, they declare, they hope, but when opportunity knocks, they hesitate. They say, I'll wait a little longer, or maybe this isn't the right time, or I don't have everything perfectly aligned yet. But let me tell you, delay can cost you your miracle. God opens doors, but He does not force your hand. You must step through the opportunity with faith, decisiveness, and boldness. Acting promptly demonstrates that you trust God enough to obey His timing and take advantage of His provision. The principle of prompt action is rooted in alignment with divine favor. When God opens a door, it is a signal that the timing is right. The resources Connections and opportunities necessary to fulfill your breakthrough are in position. But heaven expects your participation. Favor does not eliminate effort, it accelerates it. When you act quickly on the doors God opens, you enter a flow where supernatural provision meets human initiative. Hesitation, on the other hand, often allows the enemy to close the door or redirect the opportunity elsewhere. Acting promptly requires discernment. Not every opportunity is from God, but when aligned with prayer, revelation, and wisdom, you can recognize the signals. Ask yourself, does this align with God's word? Does this honor Him? Does this move me closer to the miracle I have declared? When the answer is yes, do not delay. Move immediately. Take the step, make the call, accept the invitation, or invest the time. Heaven works in tandem with action. Your miracle can be ready, but you must engage it fully to receive it. Faith without action is incomplete. You may have prayed fervently, declared abundantly, and positioned yourself for supernatural favor. But if you do not act on opportunities, the breakthrough will remain dormant. Opportunities are spiritual signals. They are God's hands extended to you. When you respond quickly, you activate momentum. You demonstrate faith in motion, and the universe begins to align with your expectancy. The door of opportunity is rarely open forever. Your prompt action ensures that you do not miss what heaven has prepared specifically for you. Consider biblical examples. Joseph did not remain passive. When Pharaoh's dream called for interpretation, he acted immediately and faithfully, and he rose to a position of unprecedented favor. Esther did not hesitate when her nation needed intervention. She acted promptly, risking her life, and her timely action saved her people. Peter did not pause. When Jesus called him to walk on water, he stepped out of the boat immediately, even though fear threatened to stop him. These examples demonstrate a spiritual principle. Opportunity combined with prompt action brings miracles, provision, and favor. Hesitation often allows delay, doubt, or defeat to take root. Acting promptly also requires courage. Sometimes God's doors are intimidating, unfamiliar, or uncomfortable. They may push you out of your comfort zone, challenge your habits, or require risk. But the presence of fear does not negate the opportunity. Acting promptly in faith is choosing obedience over hesitation, courage over comfort, and divine alignment over natural reasoning. When you move with faith, the obstacles become stepping stones, and the doors that seem challenging become pathways to unprecedented blessings. Beloved, practical application is essential. When God opens a door, do not wait for perfection. Do not wait until everything feels completely aligned. Do not wait until you feel fully ready. Step forward with confidence, faith, and anticipation. Every call you make, every meeting you attend, every decision you act upon can trigger acceleration in your miracle. Momentum is created by consistent, prompt action. Opportunity and preparation intersect when you respond without delay, and that is when supernatural provision flows freely. Finally, understand that prompt action cultivates a spirit of readiness. When you move quickly on God's openings, you train your spirit to recognize favor, to respond without fear, and to operate in alignment with divine timing. You position yourself for more than just one miracle. You become someone whose life is a magnet for provision. Heaven responds to decisive faith, and your prompt action allows what is ready in the spiritual realm to manifest in your natural life. So, beloved, as you declare, God, I need money now, remember that your prayer is not complete without prompt response. Open your eyes to the doors that God is sending. Act swiftly when He provides guidance, and step boldly into the opportunities that He presents. Do not delay. Do not procrastinate. Move immediately when heaven signals, and watch how your faith in motion releases provision, accelerates favor, and brings miracles that exceed human understanding. Beloved, there is a spiritual principle that cannot be ignored. Gratitude is the multiplier of blessings. It is the force that magnifies what God has already promised and accelerates the manifestation of what is yet to come. To declare gratitude before receiving is not just a spiritual exercise, It is a posture of faith that positions your heart to receive supernatural provision. When you thank God in advance, when you bless Him for what has not yet arrived, you are telling heaven that you believe His word is true, that your miracle is already on the way, and that you are ready to steward it with a thankful heart. Many believers pray with urgency, they ask with intensity, and they declare with boldness, but they forget the power of gratitude. They focus only on the need, the lack, or the delay. But gratitude shifts your perspective from limitation to abundance. It reminds your spirit that God is faithful, that He is already at work, and that your provision is not dependent on circumstances, but on His promise. Gratitude is not passive. It is a spiritual declaration that activates favor, opens doors, and amplifies miracles. It is the key that unlocks the overflow of divine provision. Declaring gratitude before receiving aligns your spirit with God's economy. The universe responds to expectation and faith, and nothing signals faith like giving thanks in advance. When you say, "Thank you, Lord, for the provision I am about to receive," you are doing more than expressing politeness. You are positioning yourself to receive the abundance that is already on its way. Your heart shifts from desperation to confidence, from doubt to expectancy, and from limitation to alignment with God's promise. This posture of gratitude magnifies your blessing because it releases a spiritual signal that heaven responds to immediately. Beloved, gratitude before receiving also demonstrates trust. It is a statement to God that you believe He is faithful, that He honors His word, and that His timing is perfect. When you thank Him in advance, you are declaring, "I do not see it yet, but I believe it is coming. I am confident in your provision. I am ready to receive." Faith is expressed through words, actions, and attitudes, and gratitude is one of the most powerful expressions of faith. It tells heaven that you are aligned with God's promises and that your heart is open to receive without resistance. Consider the biblical principle demonstrated in the life of the Israelites. God told them to collect manna daily, but they had to trust Him to provide each day. Those who gathered with gratitude received nourishment, while those who doubted experienced lack. Gratitude created a flow of provision that daily replenished their needs. In the same way, your declaration of thanks, even before your miracle manifests, prepares the spiritual ground for continuous provision. Gratitude is the soil in which miracles grow. Without it, blessings may arrive, but they are not maximized. With it, they multiply.